I call to order the meeting of the Board of the Cleveland Heights University Heights City School District. Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Ms. Wright.
Here.
Mr. Posh.
Here.
Mr. Himes.
Here.
Ms. Serini.
Here.
Ms. Lewis.
Here.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. Our first up on the agenda tonight is awards and recognition. Dr. Williams.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'd like to begin our meeting tonight by recognizing a group of Heights Middle School students who earned a great reward by taking a risk. 4 seventh graders from the Project Lead the Way class, Caleb Green, Marcus Holland, Arthur Smeedle, and Ruby Tugo, signed up for the Great Lakes Science Center Design and Build Challenge back in February, not knowing what to expect. But the team went in with open minds and a wealth of knowledge, and they ended up winning the contest. When I tell you they took first place overall, that's not over just all the middle schools or the high schools. That's over the adult teams as well, from the likes of Sherwin-Williams and Cleveland State University. Their teacher, Amy Stotler, will now tell us more about their experience and the project Lead the Way. If we can have the students come up along with Ms. Stotler.
I am Amy Stotler. This is my co-teacher, Diana Neal. I am the Roxborough half of Project Lead the Way this year, and she is the Monticello half. We presented it, just like Dr. Williams said, to our students. We didn't know what to expect. And at one point, we looked at each other and said, wouldn't it be hilarious if we came out winning this? So they built a vehicle that had to defy gravity. You want to step forward so they can all see it, Marcus?
Can pull the microphone
And-
a little closer.
Oh.
There you go. Thank you.
So they had to, there was a ramp that had a couple of different size hills on it, and based on where their vehicle, stopped, is where they got points, and you got 3 scored rounds. However, before they actually put the car on the track, they had to declare if that one was going to be scored or not. So this was a general model of that car. We had some modifications that were done for the bonus round. That was called the long jump. And it was one single hill, and they jumped into a pit of Legos. So just like a long jump, based on where they landed, they got the points. So we did beat out all of the corporate teams and the other student teams. We have this trophy that we share with Sherwin-Williams for this year. It will go to them once the school year's over, and hopefully it'll come back to one of our schools next year.
Congratulations.
We are proud of all of you for representing our school district in this way. We're going to take a photo here in the front.
That's awesome.
Next, I'd like to bring up Caroline Emka from the Superintendent's Cadre to provide an update on current events at Heights High.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I'm a junior at Cleveland Heights High School, and I come to these meetings to kind of report on some of the things happening at the high school. So speaking of winning, the Cleveland Heights Academic Challenge team just won over St. Ignatius and North Ridgeville on the 23rd of March. Total score was 505 points, and the competition took place on Channel 5 TV. The leading members are Maple Boucher, Rowan Bruce, and Leo Keneally, and the alternates are Sam Hermes and Ethan Zoldak. So they did really well, and we're really proud of them. So go Heights. The Cleveland Heights Vocal Music Department is taking their annual tour. We are leaving Thursday morning at 6. Just a nice morning trip. And we're heading to St. Louis. We'll be there through Sunday morning. We're going to be hitting the Arch, a lot of other locations. We're going to do lots of sightseeing, and on the way back, we're hitting Six Flags. So, very exciting. Yep, thank you.
Will you be singing on the rides?
Probably.
Good.
Thank you, Caroline. And do we have statements from the audience tonight? It's like nobody signed up. Anybody didn't get to sign up? All right. Then we will move along to the consent agenda, and this covers meeting minutes, personnel, education services, items 1 through 3 of business services, and finance. Do I have a motion to consider the consent agenda?
So motioned.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion on the consent agenda?
9 meetings in 19 days, just saying.
Minutes to come.
Yes.
Been a busy season.
Yes.
For the audience, this information is in board's hands. It's also on board docs for us to read, but to move our meetings along more quickly, we do a consent agenda to consider some things quickly so we can get into more discussion about other topics. So if there's no discussion, Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Mr. Posh.
Yes.
Mr. Hines.
Yes.
Ms. Serini.
Yes,
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Ms. Wright.
Yes.
thank you. So moving right along to business services.
No, you have
Oh, I have another.
7 and 8 under person.
Oh, 7 and 8 under personnel. Oh, that's right. We're not up with you yet, Doug, sorry. We got to go to 7 and 8. So do I have a motion to consider the resolution authorizing the memorandum of understanding with the Ohio Association of Public School Employees Local 617?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
Just the obvious fact that I'm very happy that Local 617 has agreed to extend the current contract for 2 years. It makes our lives a lot easier.
I agree. Jim, do you have any comments? You look like
No.
you wanted to say something,
No,
so.
I mean, it's good, I think it's good to have some presentation about what it means. You know, it's going to get knitted in the 5-year forecast. But then again, there's, you know, likely the Me Too clause that's in there. So we're negotiating with our teachers union 795. So whatever happens with them, that will circumvent these agreements. So, I mean, this is, it's nice to see that both of these labor units want to move forward collaboratively with us. So I appreciate that.
So for the audience, we have a couple of different unions, and 2 of them, tonight, we will be voting on the MOUs with them. So if there's no further discussion, Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Ms. Wright.
Yes.
Mr. Posh.
Yes.
Mr. Hines.
Yes.
Ms. Serini.
Yes. Number 8 under personnel is, do I have a motion to consider the resolution authorizing the memorandum of understanding with the Ohio Association of Public School Employees Local 102?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
What I said earlier.
Ditto?
Well, actually, I do want to point out one item. There is in 102's MOU, there is discussion, and it's not being addressed here tonight, but there is discussion of the potential for outsourcing a piece of those, a subset of those people. And so I just wanted to recognize that tonight's vote on the adoption of this MOU does not include any outsourcing, and just want to make that very explicit.
Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hines.
Yes.
Ms. Serini.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Ms. Wright.
Yes.
Mr. Posh.
Yes.
All right. Since this was covered under our consent agenda, I just want to thank all of our community members for the donations. I'm always amazed at how generous our community and our local companies are for the donations that they give to our school district. So thank you.
And in the donations, and I actually have a question for Mr. Gaynor on these, but there was a set of donations that went to the Officer Jason West Scholarship Fund. And one of the things I think that is really beautiful about that scholarship fund is that it keeps Officers West memory sort of front in mind. And, this is a Cleveland Heights police officer who was killed in the line of duty a few years ago. So I appreciate the opportunity to share his memory in the public annually, if not more. And then, Scott, I had a question about some of the donations that are listed. We had some staff members who made donations, and as a teacher myself, I'm curious. So if kids sell candy bars and they come in with, a Ziploc bag full of quarters, at some point that needs to get turned into a check. Do we think that that's what some of these donations are, or how does that happen?
That is a good question. I would have to look into the details of what the donations were. I mean, in those cases, I don't think we would necessarily consider that a donation
Yeah,
if they were
that's-
simply changing it out. So I would expect that these are actual donations by staff people of their own dollars.
I mean, generally, kids aren't soliciting donations for our budget. They're going to like the PTAs and stuff, and
Right.
that's something we don't
Yes, yeah, and so I guess
see.
these donations were to clubs, and so that's sort of what made me think about that, but again.
Yeah, these should all be, and I'll absolutely look into it, but these should all be private donations. And yeah, okay.
Well,
In which case, an extra thank you.
in which case, yes, our
Yeah, because that's a
staff
lot
is
of
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, it was significant.
incredibly generous with their time and their pocketbooks as well, so.
All right, then moving along to business services, you're up now, Doug. Sorry to make you sit back down a minute ago.
Great. Good evening. We're here tonight for two requests, change order requests that we have. And then we'll also update the current status of the budget. The requests that we have tonight are for change orders to cover some immediate roof issues that we have. As we were developing the project, we had estimates, George had received quotes for what it would cost to replace the roofs, and it was decided early on that we were going to defer that. So as Turner's been working on the project, we've had some active leaks. So what we're doing is we're requesting, we have two different steps. Tonight's the first step, where we've had Greg Taylor is a consultant for the district. They've put together drawings and scope for fixing some of those leaks. So tonight, we have a request to kind of do an immediate fix, and then we are pricing out a more longer-lasting fix. So these are some of the costs that we had anticipated before the plan, and I went over the plan of action. So tonight's the first. We can get started on those right away. In a couple of weeks, we'll actually have the pricing back for a larger scope of fixing the roofs on both of the schools.
So if you remember, when we first started this, it was over $1 million to do the roofs, and it was decided that we felt we could push this off for 2 years. And when Turner was starting the construction, we ran into problems with different portions of both buildings actively leaking into areas. So I sent Greg Taylor back up there. He investigated further. We thought we could do some temporary repairs. This goes back months ago. And it just got worse. And we're actually have places where we're ruining the work that Turner's doing. So this, again, like Doug said, this immediate fix right now, we have to do to keep the spaces dry that Turner's working in. And then the other areas that we're going to be coming back to you in a couple weeks are, it's not going to replace both roofs. It's going to, again, we're looking at fixing areas that are actively leaking into the school so we can open up a dry school.
So something like a roof is normally done through PI.
Yes.
Will what is the expectation for the second piece of this? Will it be a PI expenditure or a bond?
Right now, we're looking at
Expenditure.
PI.
Okay, I would assume so. because-
Right, again, we're hoping that this will all come back to the permanent improvement budget, but right now, we want to keep it separate.
I understand.
Because I have the funds in permanent improvement, and right now, we want to make sure that we're on budget with the immediate needs of the schools, so that's what we expect to do.
So for the additional work, do you have any ballpark cost for that?
About $500,000.
So today is the 103,000, is that correct?
That's correct.
Right.
Okay.
But the 103 is coming out of the project contingency, the Turner.
Yes. Yep,
Well, not the
that's
Turner's.
correct. It's in these
owners.
budget sheets, it's in with the bond right now.
It's our owner's contingency.
It is.
That's-
Yep.
okay.
So the follow-up sheets that I have showing where we are in the change management, it's included in those.
So what would be the cost of doing the work for both the complete roofing coverage for both Monticello and Roxborough?
And the estimate when we first started the project, was
I
it
think it was like
a
2
million? Was it, yeah, it was $1 million each school was the estimate. So we were about $2 million to take the roofs off of both schools and replace them. That's why we decided we didn't want to do it. Again, the Monticello's roof and Roxborough's roof was 2 years out, so it was like a 2020 where we were going to put it into permanent improvement budget and do the work we're doing right now.
There had been some discussion a few months back about asphalt work at, I think, Rox, in particular the parking lot. I think Rox may have been more immediate, but Monty also. Is that still on the radar?
Not in the project. So the only work that's in the project right now would be in that, at Roxborough, where we have to repair the concrete. I actually have a architectural firm right now investigating the entire district's parking lots.
Got it.
Instead of shooting from the hip, I want to have a long-term plan, because we have needs at not just Roxborough and Monticello.
Sure.
I have to actually plan for Heights High School's parking lot to be taken care of, and along with the elementary school. So I'm having this evaluation done. I'll be able to plug in the next 5 years, the parking lot repairs and seal coating and so on.
So when you said the concrete, that's the area in Roxborough where that drain pipe?
Right.
The
The phantom
Dan's drain pipe.
It's great, we're gonna put a
I could see
sign
a
on
plaque.
it.
We'll put-
I could
The Dan
definitely envision a
Hines
plaque.
drain
I
pipe. to
think we
nowhere.
can name it your drain pipe. But I thought that was getting taken care of. Is that getting taken care of in this work?
No.
Or is
No,
that something?
That concrete is going to be
That's part
taken
of the
care of
project.
as part of the project.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
But nobody at the time knew where that water was draining down to, which we thought was causing some of the problem.
We're
with the
removing,
hidden
we're
tunnel.
removing that gutter.
Diverting it,
And
right.
removing that downspout. We did discover that there's I don't know the proper wording, but there's a stone that is, coping stone that's displaced and was causing water to come off. What our employee believes is that years ago, this was somebody's way of fixing it, was installing this gutter instead of fixing the stone. We're going to fix it properly and
Okay,
have the stone
okay.
fixed.
And you'll give us some assurances that all this multi-million dollars worth of work that we're putting inside the building is
Safe.
Dry.
safe and dry as much as we,
That's what we're doing right now.
well, it's good to have Turner on
Yes.
the property to help us see these things, before we get kids in that building, so.
And that's one of the benefits of doing this next step with doing a larger scale, because then they can coordinate that roofing contractor with all the rest of the work that's happening in the spring as we finish the project.
So our contingency, if you don't spend any more money on this or no other surprises, is about 750,000? That's what it looks like the remaining contingency will be? Or shouldn't we talk about what's remaining until we're all done with the project?
Yes, the remaining contingency for the combined schools right now is $700,000, yes, with what we have forecasted for today.
Okay. Thanks.
And that includes the repair that we're talking about tonight, and then the one we have to do in a couple of weeks?
Not the next one.
Not the next one.
So, yeah, the $500,000, if we just call it $500,000 worth of work for a larger scale roof replacement, is not on this budget sheet.
Okay. Thank
We
you.
thought that was going to be a very large number. We still have a couple months of construction left, and So that's why, once we get those numbers in a couple weeks, then we can go ahead and have a more detailed construction about PI or partial PI.
And the moving, is the move-in,
Right, so as far as the move-in, we have the moving consultant that's assisting us. They're working on that now. We're putting together a bulletin. We've targeted $100,000 for each school, and that's within this budget right now as a forecasted number. As we finalize the bulletin and we get the prices for that, then we'll see how close we were to our guesstimate on that. But right now, at least we have $200,000 forecasted for that.
and furniture was the other big one.
Furniture is the other big one, and that's already, we've awarded that, and that's in
Right,
this too.
that's executed.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So if I back up.
So let me
a
be
little-
very clear. Today, you're asking us for $103,000 for the small-scale immediate patches that need to be done right now, or last week.
That's
Or
correct.
2 weeks ago, or whatever. And then you're going to come back with an additional $500,000 request for the more complete repair.
That's correct.
Is that right? Okay, thank you.
I guess the only thing I'd ask you with the 500,000 estimate, and I know it's an estimate, can you submit that to the Bond Accountability Commission?
Absolutely. Yep.
It would be helpful to have their buy-in and their expertise to have a look at that.
Yep. Then I did have some photographs in here to just show a little bit about the work, but I think we've covered the content. These are hard to read, I apologize. There's
So
any
we have
further
water
questions?
intrusion through the masonry, is that what's happening?
Right, there is
Yeah,
some,
we need to do some tuck pointing up at the top of the masonry walls. Turner's been doing some investigation as we've been going along. We've tried to patch some of the items, and then we saw that it's a little larger, so there is a masonry patching, tuck pointing that we have as part of this change request.
Further discussion?
No, thank you.
Thank you both.
Yes, thank you. So we have to vote to accept the change approval, right? Or the change request.
A motion that we accept the change request as requested?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
So no other updates on the renovations? We're good?
We weren't going to give a full update since we just gave one 2 weeks ago. We're happy to
Okay.
answer any questions if there is anything. We're moving
Okay.
along, and
Just wondered if there was
Right.
any good news or any other things you wanted to talk about besides coming and asking for money. You always come and ask for money, so I thought I'd
That's-
give you an
that's
opportunity
right.
to talk about something
Find
else.
any
Thank
money
you for
when you're
saying
taking those
yes.
walls down.
Well, we have a tour with the.
Yeah, we
that's
have a
right. On the
tour coming
17th,
up
there is a tour that we're going to have.
on
the
April
ASC and the cities.
17th with
So we'll
many
go-
elected officials. Thank you for doing that. I will not be able to be there. I will be out of town. But I understand a lot of our elected officials are quite excited about being able to do it, so.
Great.
Good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So now on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Williams, the superintendent's report.
Planning is in full swing for our second annual Staff Awards Banquet, which will be held on May 30th at the Hilton Garden Inn in Mayfield Village. We recently announced the finalists for each of our overall district awards, including Administrator of the Year, Helping Hand of the Year, and Teacher of the Year. Our awards committee will be conducting panel interviews with each of the finalists this month to determine the district award winners. We will announce the selections at the banquet. A listing of all the building honorees and district finalists can be found on our website. New to the Staff Awards Banquet this year is that we'll be honoring our retirees. Okay. The district is hosting its second annual Family Literacy Night on Tuesday, April 30th, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the high school. Jacqueline Woodson, acclaimed author of Brown Girl Dreaming, will join us as our special guest and keynote speaker. All are welcome to attend, all CHUH students and families, and district students and families are welcome to attend. We want this to be a large event, okay? We want it to be a gathering of our entire community to be able to enjoy and welcome our acclaimed speaker. Lots of activities, music, pizza, and refreshments will be available. Mr. Lamar, Dr. Lamar?
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Today is this meeting is the second reading of our second group of board policies. We call them Policy Group B. They are 16 of them, so no action is needed today by the board because this is the second reading. We will bring the third reading in May during the business meeting. But you have those. If you have any questions or comments at this time, be happy to take those, or you can also send those to me, and I'll make sure I get those back to you.
I was glad to see that we're deleting the safety deposit box requirements.
Yes.
I really do read them.
So no further questions on policy Group B? Or Group B of policies?
We'll have the third reading in May, like I said, and if there's any other questions, be happy to address those, okay? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next thing on the agenda is the motion to approve the resolution with the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio, the ESCCC, for the 2019-2021 school years. Do I have a motion?
I will happily motion in support of that. Our ESC is fantastic. Our ESC is actually so good that districts from outside of this area belong to our ESC because of the excellent programming. So I'm happy to motion that.
I have a second? Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll? Oh, wait, do we have any discussion beyond the motion? No, okay. So, Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
I have one thing to say, sort of, but not, I mean, I would think that that would be in our quarterly contracts. It seems like that's the kind of thing that would be.
It would typically be in the quarterly contracts. I think there may have been some questions in advance on it that prompted it to be pulled out.
Okay.
And put there, just because I think people weren't necessarily familiar with what that contract is or what services the ESC provides.
Okay.
So that's the only reason. Otherwise, you're right, Jim, it would have been in the quarterly contracts.
And Mr. Gaynor, the treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report. Well, we have for action tonight the five-year forecast. We also, I'll just mention, I think probably a lot of people have, and I was asked the question just tonight by Mr. Hines about the Cuff-Patterson proposal, and there's been a lot of press and a lot of information about that. I know Mr. Posh is headed to training at the ESC. Is that tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow at the Summit County. 'cause
And
that's
so I
the
do
only
have some
one.
information for you to take with you for that, but it's,
Things
it was really a years-long comprehensive process with educators and treasurers across the state involved to come up with this. It's bipartisan, jointly sponsored by Republican and Democrats, Cupp and Patterson. It is, Dr. Dixon was on one of the subgroups for Gifted. She co-chaired that with Jenny Logan out of the Columbus area. And early stages, but certainly some things we like about it. For our district in particular, there's some additional money to be had in this proposal, so that would be a good thing. Also, funding of voucher programs directly from the state versus running them through the individual school districts is part of this Cupp-Patterson proposal. So we're happy about that because that could eliminate that difference that we see between what we receive and what is taken out. So now, I don't know where that funding is going to come from the state. They say lottery funds would be set aside to do that, but, oftentimes it's just a shell game with what they would give us and what they won't. But at any rate, I think there's some promising things, and I think that really everyone that was involved in it believes that it's a more easily understood and transparent kind of a proposal that we can go forward and explain to people. It talks about, it's kind of similar to Strickland's, I'm trying to remember the name he had for his proposal, which really talks about, what does it take to educate a student? There's a base cost, and then they layer on all these other things for wraparound services and for gifted and special education and CTE and all those other things. And so it was really kind of going back to that approach, trying to come up with something that was reasonable, then taking a look at what districts are able to raise locally based on both property taxes and income, local income, and then expecting that between what we can raise locally based on this formula and what this cost is to educate a child, that the state would pay the difference. So, it'll be a matter of where they can come up with the money for that, but right now, I believe the statistic was 84% of districts in the state are either capped or on a guarantee, meaning there's a floor or ceiling. Districts aren't being funded based on the number of students they have, based on the formula that exists now. Under this formula, that reduces that drastically. So it almost reverses, and most districts will be funded based on the number of students they educate. So we're hopeful. I think we still have a lot to learn about that, but as we get more details, we'll certainly want to share that with the board and with the community. And in terms of the 5-year forecast, one thing that I would want to say quickly is, although there have been no substantive changes to that, just to kind of put in context the OPSI rollovers that happened earlier tonight. The reason for a 2-year rollover with those unions and with all unions is that if you look at the 5-year forecast, we see a deficit occurring in fiscal year '22. So we can only certify 2 years of a union contract. So typically we would negotiate 3. But because we only have positive balances in fiscal '20 and '21, we can only certify a 2-year contract this time around. So that's what that was about. That's why the rollover was for 2 years. And the parameters of the contract fit within what the forecast would show and what these numbers are. So I don't think we necessarily pointed that out before, but I thought that made sense to bring up now.
Well, it makes sense that we don't promise money that we don't know we have.
Correct, and may
Because
not.
that's not a wise approach.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It would be really, really helpful is if, not in the near future, but sometime soon, when you present the 5-year forecast, it actually has change revisions in it. So instead of just a PDF, we can actually look at, okay, well, this was 75 million, but now it's, 47 million.
Gotcha, okay.
It would be really helpful, I think, to make it a little bit more interactive.
Sure.
I mean, that would be a great goal for the treasurer.
Absolutely, can do. Okay.
But I'm not sure, I mean, it would help me a lot, but it would have to help a lot more than me. So, I mean, if you guys think it would be helpful, is I always try to
I think
compare
that's
the
a great
two.
idea, because I tend to print them out, and I'm sitting there with my highlighter tracking changes. Oh, look,
It's-
the software should be able to do that.
It's really,
Yeah.
really hard to
Right.
try to figure out what has changed and if anything has changed. So it's,
Absolutely, no, that's no problem at all. Can do.
The other thing I would love to see, because I keep doing it myself by hand on the sides of the columns, is a subtotal for the 3 kinds of deduction, assuming they're going to continue.
Oh, for the
For vouchers, yeah,
Can do.
because I end up subtotaling those every time and going, oh, Thank you.
Easy enough, can do.
All right, any other discussion on the 5-year forecast? Do I have a motion to approve the 5-year forecast?
So motioned.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Ms. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Posh.
Yes.
Mr. Heinz.
Yes.
Ms. Serini.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
On to the board president's report. So I have a couple of things to report on tonight. First of all, Caroline sent you guys dates for board walkthroughs. Last year, we did them in February. We're doing them a little late this year, but as Malia pointed out, we had 19 meetings, so there wasn't any time to do any board walkthroughs. I know it's, not possible if you work during the day, you might not be able to do one of these, but if you can, I would highly encourage people to at least do one. Usually we try to do two, but since we're starting late this year, I will accept one. And there are certain dates because we are working around testing dates. We did not want to be doing walkthroughs and disrupting our students during their testing days. The other thing I wanted to mention is that,
Jody,
Oh, yeah.
can you clarify on the testing dates? Because the whole reason I really didn't sign up for it is I felt really uncomfortable being in the building when testing was being,
the dates Caroline gave us do not include testing dates. They are out.
So
if you
these
look on the
dates are the
list-
dates where we should come.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if you look on
Okay.
the list, that's why certain schools, there were certain days.
okay, so that, okay.
That's what it was. So there
Okay.
were, there were certain days that the middle schools weren't included, but the elementaries were, and certain days the high school was included, but not. So if you go back to the email that Caroline sent us, the days that are listed on there are good. Just send her an
Okay.
email back and say, I want to go to this school, this date.
Okay, got it.
All right, sorry for the confusion on that. Second thing I wanted to report on is, for those of you who aren't aware, Cleveland Heights High School is nominated as one of the finalists for the Scene Magazine Best of Cleveland. So you have until April 11th to go on and vote. I encourage you to please go do that. So it's Cleveland Heights, Solon, Lakewood, Shaker, I think that's it. Rocky River, there was a fifth one. So please go vote. Please go on Scene's Best of Cleveland and vote for our high school.
And some other great
Other great local,
establishments.
yeah, great
Absolutely.
local establishments have also been nominated, so that's pretty exciting. The other thing I wanted to mention is, can't read my own writing here. Oh, Memorial Day Parade, I think we should participate. I know, Malia, you have a conflict, and we understand you've got 2 kids graduating, so we will give you a pass this
They
year.
expect cake that day.
But if everyone is in agreement, I'll be happy to fill out the form and get us registered to march. We have our great banner, thanks to Scott Wortman from last year, who helped me get the artwork together for that. I think we should participate again. It's a great event. I know several of our student groups are going to be participating, so I think it's always good when the Board of Education is there as well.
I'm in.
Yep, I'm in.
What's that date, Jody?
Memorial Day is May 27th.
Monday, the 27th.
I believe, as well. Also, I just wanted to give an update. Our contract is with Liz Kirby for her review. She's also running that through her attorney, which I would expect. So I talked to her on Sunday, and it seems like everything's moving along fine. She's working on her onboarding plan, which she will be submitting to us to take a look at, and we'll be able to make some comments on that as well. She's also looking at some days that she's planning to come and spend in the district before her actual start date.
Great.
So I will keep you all updated on that. So that's all I have for the board president's report for tonight. Are there any board committee reports?
I have one. Last night was the first meeting of our early childhood task force, which was fantastic. I have most of the folks who have volunteered to serve, Sally Hanrahan, Angela Higgins, Joan Spurl, Erica Adams, Christine Zoldak, Lisa Sugar, Jacqueline Taylor, Monica Rogers, Jamie Blattis, Lisa Evans, Kinzetta Ellis, Yvonne Wallace, Brian Williams, Sandy Womack, Karen Anderson, Danielle Vai, Shelley Pulling, Patrick Carpenter, Erin Hanna, Lee Fuller, and there was one or two others that I just don't have a copy of that in front of me. So I want to thank everybody for participating, and it was a fantastic night. I can't wait for you to be able to join us next time. wow, do we have experience in this community. We have people who have PhDs in early childhood who are part of our group. We have members of our state support teams who are participating. It was a very exciting meeting with a great deal of potential and folks eager to do the work that we need done. So it was a great start to a committee. I really left feeling energized, believe it or not, after a 2-hour-long meeting. So, and certainly very, very optimistic.
So this is a superintendent's task force, correct?
Correct.
So it's not, so it's basically members that the superintendent can pick to help out?
Yes, yes.
Because we may get questions about people wondering, well, gee whiz, why wasn't I made a member of that committee, or what was the
Yes.
the process for that?
Process, I believe that applications were requested, and Dr. Dixon seated this
Yeah, she
this
picks.
group.
Yeah, she chooses and picks. And it's up to her if she wants to solicit. So,
It was a great start. We have a great deal of work to do, but it was a very nice start.
so is there any expectation of when the task force will present back to the board with their findings?
I would expect multiple presentations. We are going to be meeting roughly monthly and looking at a number of questions in terms of one location, moving forward, multiple locations, more locations, or condensing into one. What community partners might be available. There are different models of special ed service delivery that we're going to be looking at what would be the best fit and best practices for that. What age range, how early to have students join us in that program, how late to keep students in that program. So there are quite a few variables, and I would hope that we would present, that they would present to the board regularly. I would say maybe quarterly.
Well, I think initially when this whole committee was envisioned by Dr. Dixon, it was supposed to start in the fall, and we were supposed to get some findings in the April-May timeframe to help us better decide what we wanted to do with our facilities work. Now, I know when Dr. Dixon left, she said it was going to take a lot more time than that, and, I get it. But you're right, the work is complicated, it's big, it impacts a lot of things, and, I don't want to say we're on hold with our facilities work, but as soon as we can get some answers to some of these tough questions, it's like, when I know, it goes deeper. It's like, are we going to offer these services in the summertime? Are we not going to offer them in the summertime?
And the special ed piece is very significant as well. And, the assembled group is also very sensitive to the fact that a larger sampling of the community needs to be heard from as well on those large decisions. And so we need to, this task force needs to figure out what platform should be used, how should we request information from the wider community to help inform those recommendations. So.
And I'd just like to point out that our county rep, Cheryl Stevens, is interested in helping in early childhood any way she can
That's
with the
great.
county. So
Yeah.
she might be someone you want to reach out to.
Cheryl's a great asset to the community. We're lucky to have her.
She's very interested in that topic, and because of the committees that she is sitting on.
Great, that's really good.
Maybe the chair of the committee, wasn't she?
Not sure if she's the chair, but I know she's on it, so. Right, the Gifted Education Task Force met as well in the last several weeks. I can't remember exactly which day it was, but I was there. The state has released some changes, which Toya Robinson heads that task force, and she will be presenting to us soon to tell us about what those are and recommendations that the Gifted Education Task Force is going to bring to us based on changes that the state is making to gifted education and what that requires. So I can't remember which work session they're on, but I know they're in May. Okay, so that will be coming up very soon. The only other thing I wanted to mention that I forgot is I have been invited to a school board presidents meeting. I guess there used to be a school board presidents group that got together quite regularly of Cuyahoga County or at least inner ring suburb board presidents, and we have decided to revive that group, and that meeting is going to be April 24th, and I will be attending that.
That's great.
So that was the thing I couldn't read on my note, my own writing. So any other board committee reports?
I may have mentioned this before, but PTA Council has been working on revising their bylaws. Career Tech Advocacy Group did not meet last month. They will be meeting, I believe, next week, and of course, there's a scheduling conflict. And I wanted to mention again that the Reaching Heights Spelling Bee is on the 1st of May, and I'm going to try to enlist all of y'all's help. 'Cause
I'll be in Milwaukee again on the 1st of May. I
well,
apologize.
I think we should field a team, but I'm going to have to get everybody's courage up for that.
You guys fielded a team last year, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes, somebody
We
was
went
in the
down in
audience.
flames, but that was okay.
Yes, and I was in Milwaukee last year the same time,
Yeah,
too. Are
see?
you sensing a pattern here?
Uh-huh.
The meeting I have to attend every year. so.
Coward.
So if there's no other board committee reports, are there any unfinished business? No? Okay, so we do have a couple of items under new business. And Beverly, would you like to start the discussion about the proposal you would like to make about naming a space in the high school?
Yes, we had submitted naming a space for William Tarter. He was an English teacher and a music director, and we mapped out a space in the, at the high school, one of the rehearsal rooms. Dan and I, it's a wonderful room, and we submitted the proposal, some months ago, but then we got busy, and I'm just hoping that we can get the approval of the board and name the space and have a recognition for Mr. Tarter at the Cleveland Heights Gospel Concert.
When is the gospel
When is
concert?
it?
The gospel concert, I believe, Dan, do you have that date?
I think I do.
It is in April.
Fat thumb, sorry. I have it as April 20th, Friday. No? Okay.
The 19th, maybe?
Well, I sure hope it's not the 19th.
Oh, you know what, I'm sorry, this is from 2018. I can tell you that last year it was on April 20th, which,
No, it's usually on a Friday. I'll get that
Oh,
date.
we'll get
okay, well, if
I'll
you
get
get
the
that date,
date,
and
yeah.
will you provide us with a draft resolution to
Yes.
pass? So we can go ahead and consider this at our next opportunity. So I'm
Well, if you're going to, okay, so the next meeting is on
16th.
the 16th.
It's a work session, but we could still vote on this on the work session.
I am not going to be at that meeting. Are you going to have quorum on that meeting? Is anybody else not going to be?
I will be there.
for Mr. Tarter, I assure you I will be there.
I mean, this has been shared with us before.
Right.
If we want to
So
do
we
it, is
just-
there,
yeah.
I mean,
Is
is
there
there
any
any?
reason not to vote today?
Because we don't have the resolution or.
Yeah, we don't have a resolution, do we, does that hold us up, Mr. Gaynor? Do we need,
You could certainly make a resolution if you wanted.
Yeah, you'd like to name a
Yeah.
room?
I would,
Do we know that the actual room?
Yes, because I did have a chance to talk with the principal. We pointed out the room. So we just,
You may want to make the room subject to staff. This way, if something happens, you don't want to tie the room to the resolution. You just want to make sure that they will be naming an appropriate room, and then you could work with staff, because sometimes they may realize a plaque's not going to fit, or
okay.
if you don't have the right room number right now. This way, you can still go through with the resolution, get it done, and then just let staff deal with it.
So do you want to make a resolution?
Yes, and
Go
I'd
ahead
like
and
to
You have the floor. Make the
make a
resolution.
resolution to name the music room, the naming of the music room for William Tarter.
I would like to second that.
Any further discussion? Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll, or am I moving too fast?
That's all right, I'll get to.
We will have this done, so you can name it
So
at the gospel
Get it done and behind
concert.
us.
All right, Ms. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Hines,
Yes.
Ms. Serini,
Yes.
Mr. Paz.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm very happy I was able to vote on that. That's really good stuff.
So we got it done.
And it's done. Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. So Beverly, I know you have been wanting to give us an update on the Nsba Equity Symposium that you had attended?
Yes,
So
back in
you-
January.
Yes. In 19 meetings, we couldn't get this done.
Okay, Scott. Scott's near. I think I'm ready here. Okay. Okay, this is, I'll be presenting or reporting out regarding the Equity Symposium that I attended back in January 26th, as a matter of fact. I had the opportunity to attend the Nsba Equity Symposium back in January. The Equity Symposium is a one-day event that provides a forum for school board members and other stakeholders such as public school advocates and community leaders to examine and discuss strategies, current trends, research, and best practices that have a positive impact on the educational outcomes of every student. NSBA's vision for equity in public education affirms in their actions that each student can, will, and shall learn. They recognize that based on factors including but not limited to disability, race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status, students are deprived equitable education opportunities. Educational equity is the intentional allocation of resources, instruction, and opportunities according to need, requiring that discriminatory practices, prejudice, and beliefs be identified and eradicated. And there were a number of speakers that attended or that presented at the conference, and two ladies that really caught my attention was Dr. Candace Sumner and Myra Maxwell. Okay. Dr. Sumner is the institutional coach and restorative justice specialist at the Fernway High School. She has published a critical Black feminist autobiography that examines the experience of a participant in Medco and calls for further work to be done in the social, emotional, mental, and racial identity development. She is invited frequently to public speakings and consulting engagements, facilitating difficult conversation about race, education, gender, and equity. Designing the pathway to equity. Ensuring equitable outcomes for all students requires more than just technical solutions. Moving your equity agenda forward requires effective communication with people that provide day-to-day education services, and attention to the perspectives and experiences that shape their attitudes and behaviors that impact students and students' outcome. Equity, mindfulness, restorative practices, intersectional, and opportunities. In this session, participants explored the intersections between equity and work in mindfulness and restorative practice as they related to improving school climate and addressing disparities in academic achievement. Communicating a reflective reality. This presentation reflects on practices and strategies that school administrators, teachers, board members, and others can use to be intentional when it comes to celebrating and engaging communities. The content focuses on understanding how to redefine equity in your own school community, understanding the importance of school and community demographics, the type of images that you are using to promote your school, how the community can see itself in your district's work, identifying opportunities for improvement using data, the type of content you are using on visual platforms, types of professional development used to help teachers understand the culture and experiences of students they teach, stakeholders' input, and voices of students. To me, I really appreciate that we've started this work thanks to Ms. Gould and Dr. Womack, and this is something that we have to continue. So if there's any questions or comments, speak to me after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. It was very moving, very powerful. And I hope that we would do another session of the groundwater training or something similar, whatever the next level is that we did last summer. I mean, I thought that was excellent.
Wonderful.
I love the fact that the cities partnered with us and did that, and I think that there would be a lot of interest in doing something like that again.
Absolutely.
On to correspondence and announcements. I just have quick correspondence I received this evening from Mayor Georgine Wheelo from South Euclid, and she just wanted to thank us for taking the time to report out at South Euclid City Council meeting. Jim and I were at the last one, just giving them an update. We've been trying to do a better job of reaching out to all three of the cities that we are, make up our school district. And she just says, education is critical to our communities and region, and thank you for coming. So I wanted to share that. And we did invite South Euclid City Council members to the middle school tours as well.
Excellent.
So. And then Dr. Williams was able to confirm that the gospel choir concert will be April 18th. So I have
So
that.
that's a Thursday night,
It's a Thursday because
because
the
there's no
kids have
school
off
on the
Friday.
19th. Okay.
Yes. Are there any other announcements of dates? Other than, I do need to mention that April 8th, which is next Monday, we have a joint meeting with University Heights City Council that will be held here. So that is an upcoming event.
That's at 6:30, correct?
6:30,
Okay.
yes. Yes, 6:30.
Good.
Was there an executive sessions tucked in there?
There will be one after.
Ah.
Yes, there will be an executive session after.
Great.
Since we're already starting at 6:30, City Council will be joining us for that. Is there any other topics? Otherwise, I will go to the closing of the meeting.
Oh, there's one other thing I forgot to mention. Tomorrow night from 6 to 8, Reaching Heights is hosting the big master calendar planning session. And I know that Krista Hawthorne has invited a bazillion people from different organizations so that we can try to see where scheduling conflicts might occur in advance so that we can fiddle a little bit before the calendar is printed for next school year.
It's great.
And that's happening at Delisle, correct? Okay.
Are any of us attending?
I will be there.
I'm going to try.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, are there any other announcements or any other topics to discuss? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes,
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
we are adjourned. Thank you.